Locations, locations, locations. Where do these freelance people go? Where does this model go to generally shoot the content that she gets out? And where do we go for practice and all of that? Can it fit in my budget? Can it not? Am I overthinking this? Am I not? All things that apply to me. And I'm sure you. Indoor locations we'll go over first. So when I'm shooting inside, I think the main goal is not to have the most extravagant, holy cow, wonderful, blow you away place to shoot. The most important thing is predictability and affordable. Is it legal? Is it safe? Does it have heating? Does it have a bathroom? Is it in a decent area with good parking? These are important things for a model and a photographer to work comfortably together. If you don't feel comfortable and you don't feel like it's an environment where you can be yourself, or maybe you overextend your pocket if you're the photographer or whoever's arranging the location, these aren't good places to be. The thing is, you want a place where you feel safe, comfortable, you can come up with a plan, and it predictably is going to deliver and pan out. So it's effective and efficient, and your images will be awesome, and it's going to be a good dialogue between you and the model. When you're shooting inside, you don't really need any props or any certain sets or anything of that nature. It's all depending really kind of what you're looking for. Some people prefer to shoot ambient light, and in that regard I would say make sure you pick a place that has white walls, big windows. You don't need a hard sun all the time because it's going to change during the day. Morning light's going to be cooler, evening light warmer, and then during the day it will have an effect of being more cloudy. So you would be more of a shadow effect. I do suggest bringing in a fill light because again, you really want to rule out the variables of unpredictability. You might end up with a ridiculously cloudy day, a really sunny day, and you cannot seem to get the lighting where you wanted it to be. A lot of that can be metered in the camera and adjusted, especially with cameras and how smart they are today. But if you have a little bit of fill light, even if it's just an affordable continuous light that you pack along, which I do a lot of times, I love it, it kind of gives you a little more control and a little more place to meter off of. So that's kind of a good direction to start as far as indoor goes. As far as when I go to shoot, I don't really necessarily have a favorite place. A lot of people might be looking to, there's one thing that's great. I think a gift of a creative and a not gift of a creative is we really embrace change and we tend to be encouraged and inspired by it. I think the hardest thing is that a lot of people think, hey, if you rent a studio, this is awesome because I can come up with all these creative ideas and not have to pay more each month. I can have predictability. But at the end of the day, that predictability ends up being the pressure of the predictability of a bill every month. And we tend to want to be able to control that depending how our income and what we're developing and what angles we're developing our portfolio. Also, what can happen is it can become your trap where you can no longer see what you can change up. Now, it might be helpful to bring another pro in at that point because what they see might be something that you didn't see. So that can kind of reignite your love and passion for a location you have. It can also be really good if you're just doing a regular bringing in customers and you kind of have your signature developed sets and you need that predictability, and it's not really so much about being creative but being able to deliver a product to the paying customer. But as far as for me, if I've got a predictably paying customer, I want to go in and flip my lights on and have that portrait done for them. Bam, easy, out the door. They got what they expected, and what isn't perfect, I know how to fix it because I've got the walls the way I need it and the light balanced, and I can clean it up and post. I know, right? But if I'm out there being creative and I'm bored or I'm feeling really a little bit on the slump and I need to change it up, that's where I really go variety. I love a new set all the time, something I can go in and just, get myself into and be part of and just dance and sing with the light and the camera and the other person working with me. Pet peeves with an indoor location and things you should really look out for in regards to if you're bringing a model in. Number one, parking. If it has horrible parking and you have to pay every 2 hours or you have to truck a suitcase really far and it's all stairs and you're not willing to do the trucking, I would shy from that. I am not even going to make it up when I am on the road Time is everything. I line up my shoots and I allow quite a gap of time in between them, allowing driving, packing, greeting. I have it down to about a science of how long it should take to do the paperwork after and everything. If I show up and I haven't been warned that the parking's awful or there's no spot for me to park, and I am already feeling really frazzled about traffic and following my GPS, the last thing I want to do is battle with that, and it can back up my entire afternoon, which reflects terribly on me. On top of it, you already are mad at me for being late or seeming like I'm a wimp because I'm in a place I've never been before. And I am such a perfectionist. I want to be really, really good for you, or my esteem just crumbles and I can't pull out of it. Now, I do plan to be early on shoots, absolutely, but trying to find parking and then worrying my car might get towed or having to pay an extra $30 for a parking meter, that comes out of my pocket. And I'm already coming from as low as I can to make sure that I'm making this affordable and easy on you as I want it to be on me. So that's a big one. Electricity, that's another one. If there is no heater or no fan that can be going depending on the weather and stuff like that, I cannot do the shoot. I have had people try and hire me when it is freezing out, and anybody who knows me knows if it's cold, I go home. It is just not worth it. It is not fun. I am not comfortable, and suddenly the person who I am working for, who I am so excited to see and so grateful for, becomes my biggest, worst enemy. And I am angry the whole time because I can't be my best, and I hate that. It's embarrassing knowing I'm going to get images where I cannot be my best. And it also breaks the trust of that person. It's saying that they trust that I can handle this temperature and that I can deal with it and be comfortable, and I am inside saying, I don't think that you're putting my comfort and my needs first. So it is an underlying dialogue that is not a good one. Now, some models are okay with that. They're super fine with it. Not okay with me. Also, if you don't have permission to use a place, I don't want to be there. So that's another one you'd be pretty surprised. I've had a real estate agent who was showing people's houses, wouldn't tell you the location until right before the shoot and wouldn't tell you exactly why. And then later on it came out, and he ended up getting busted too, that he was waiting and would tell the owners he had someone coming to look at the place. The place would get cleaned up, and he would do a shoot for a quick hour to 2 hours. He'd pay you your minimum, whatever it was, and then he would sneak you in and you rush you out. That is awful, and when you are there as a model, regardless how good of a liar he is, it is really obvious and you are aware that something is not right. Let's talk about outdoor. A lot of people think that I cannot stand to shoot outdoors. I actually love shooting outside. If the weather is right, there's no bugs, it's legal, it's a cool place, the light's good, or you brought lighting, they're my favorite shots too. I agree. The problem is, and the obstacle that I've come to find out, is most people who choose to shoot outdoors don't get permission. They're trying to sneak you out on site, and they are really under the thoughts that no one is going to suspect or bust you. In the old days, maybe it was that way. There weren't so many people with digital cameras, and this amazing, wonderful experience hadn't been discovered by as many people as it has today. Thank you, internet. But if I'm not comfortable and it's not legal, I'm not going to be there. It just isn't going to work for me. So also the weather can really play into role. With the weather, it can be too hot or too cold, or the rain can happen, or there's just a lot of weird dynamics that go on. Now, when I'm home, if there's a great location and there's a person who has a piece of property or something like that, it's a little more forgiving because I'm not out of pocketing every single day. So if it doesn't work out, we can reschedule, and it's not like painful, and I don't feel I have to make it reflect badly on me. With photographer, we're kind of sign up for it knowing what we're negotiating. But when I'm on the road, I always have a plan B. If the weather is bad and the place is like, permitted, we're allowed to be there, it's safe, then we always have a backup plan in case the weather goes south. Because just because it decided to rain us out doesn't mean that the hotel doesn't want me to pay for that night's stay. They don't really care. So I have to have something that's concrete that I know is going to work out as far as traveling, and that's just me. I've had people though who are super okay with that. They have properties and they have backup plans in case it rains, and in that case I have no problem with it. Bugs and brush can also be a problem if you're a model with sensitive skin. I get bruised if mosquitoes bite me, and that is not something that works out so good for other photographers later on. Why does this girl have bruises all over her? Or why did she get hives? Or just so many things come into the dynamic that people don't come to realize. But the big one is a lot of people will go out there, and it's sad that it goes along this line. A lot of people go out there and they don't want to fork over the money for a location, and they don't want to master lighting, and the cameras tend to meter better in natural sunlight, they think, and they don't understand that, you know, rings under the eyes are a very clear sign of someone who doesn't really know what they're doing necessarily, and so they think that that's their place and their specialty, but really they just don't understand light. Because you can bring lights, I love lights, and you can shoot outside, and you can actually make outside even more cool than it already was. But I'm just big on legality and predictability, and I think a lot of people who are professional about this would say the same thing. So that's just for me. Is it better to shoot in the morning, in the afternoon, during the day, cloudy, sunny? When is the best time to shoot if I am doing this deal outside? So the best time of day, probably in my eyes to shoot, is morning. That's me, I think, and then sunset. But me, I like morning because I am a morning person. So probably first ask your model, is she fresher in the morning, or is she fresher, when is she her best? Then next of all, ask yourself, what is it about this time of day that's really important to me? Is this something that I can maybe recreate with artificial light and do it outside, and then it doesn't really matter what time of day I'm out here? Or is there something specific I want? Do I want the cooler light of the morning or the warmer light in the afternoon? Or am I hoping for these clouds to come over and work as a diffuser, which I still recommend having a fill light. Either put a ring light on or just a little bit of something, because again, you're still probably going to get those shadows. It has to be pretty particular and special of a day to get those off, or all of her poses have to be to get that shadow off. So I don't really think it has such to do with the time of day, if you understand lighting, as it does with your model and yourself as best performers and when that location is best to shoot. If it's really crowded in the afternoon and not in the morning, and you're shooting, again, something legal and permitted, I recommend going the time of day it's less busy, unless you need a crowd around you. I mean, maybe you want to blur the crowd and stop her. So, I mean, that could be a whole thing in itself. So it depends the goals of the shoot, but overall, I think it just depends on who's in their best energy, and also the weather and the temperature. In the summer, you're gonna wanna shoot in the morning, because I don't know where you're watching this from, but in the Midwest, it gets hotter even into the evening when it's dark. It does not cool off, and also you're more prone to get thunderstorms around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So you'd start running into that as being another variable that can get in your way. Then the bugs come because the humidity kicks in, and they're like, yay! So anyhow, just my thoughts on outdoors and time of day. A lot of people will say sunrise, sunset. That's if you have no other lighting. If you're just kind of winging it and doing your own thing, again, suggesting you have your own property, you're permitted, and all of that stuff, I would recommend, you know, those times of day are good. It just depends the lighting you're looking for, warm, cool. Locations can be so important to a shoot. They can be the momentum that drives it forward into something you never expected it to deliver, and they can also be the thing that just anchors and pulls you down into debilitation, where nobody can move and your creative just goes writer's block dead. So I think planning, knowing kind of what you're dealing with, paying attention to what you see is available and those gifts, and also the more practice you have at home with your own light should something go wrong, is really important. There's so many things to location. This little episode can go on, and if there's any questions, just feel free to ask. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I want to deliver some really useful content to you. I know I talk a lot, I know, but I really feel like there's a lot to talk about, and I love this industry, and I'm just hoping that I really help knock some of the tarnish off of it to people who've heard nothing but horrible, and that I enlighten and am helpful to people who are just getting started, and then people who are doing it, maybe I have some reminders or sharing the experiences, you feel that sense of camaraderie and connection, and you realize that you're not alone out there doing it, because there's a ton of us who are, and it is just wonderful. So thank you so much. This is Charlie Kristine. I really appreciate you.